Hello guys, this is a review of Maxine and Marrowbone. Something that these two movies have in common is that they both star Mia Goth, but that's as much as they have in common with each other. Marrowbone also stars Anya Taylor-Joy, whose work I really admire. Let's start with that one since it's the hardest pill to swallow by far. Marrowbone is about a mother who moves to a new place with her four children, all of different ages, of course. Three of them are teenagers, one of them is smaller, and they are trying to start a new life. It isn't immediately revealed that their father is a serial killer, but I mean, this movie has so many ups and downs, so many twists, but yeah, their father is a serial killer. He had some money when he went to prison. That money went to them, and they're trying to forget about their trauma, just start anew. This beautiful place, this old very beautiful but antique home. But their mom becomes ill and passes away. Before passing, and this is like literally um early on in the movie. While there, their first afternoon there, if I'm not mistaken, they meet a girl named Allie, the kids. They befriend her and they all just click with what it's like if they've known each other for years. It's a very childlike interaction, and us as viewers, we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what's happening, who's bad, who's good. But anyway, I forgot to mention that. Before the mother passes away, she makes her eldest son, Jack, promise that he's going to take care of the kids and he's going to be the father figure. Since he is still a minor, he has to keep them hidden, keep all of them hidden, until he becomes of age so that he could claim the property and take care and legal guardianship of his siblings. He promises, and they continue living life the way that they can as children. But not long after that, like, they probably moved in, and maybe a few months later their dad showed up. And this is something that we don't get to see much of, but there is an altercation. Then time passes by, and it is slowly but surely revealed that he was killed, the dad, and he was locked in the attic and kind of left there to starve. So in the meantime, Jack keeps um, growing a romantic relationship with Allie, who they met, the first day that they were there. And there's a lot of side stories with this lawyer, who I believe he's the lawyer, who is trying to transfer the ownership of the home to Jack, but he needs a signature, and Jack's like, no, but my mom is sick, because keep in mind, none of them know that the mother has passed away. That lawyer is also interested in Allie, but she's not interested in him. There's a lot of mini issues or mini stories within the main plot of the movie. But we come to find in the very end that the dad got into a fight with Jack. He tried to give him back all his money, but it wasn't enough. He, I believe, throws him over a hill, or it's not important, a waterfall, something like that. He, Jack, becomes obviously unconscious, and when he regains consciousness, he heads back to the house as fast as possible to discover that his dad had already killed his siblings. And he left them locked in there. He had told his siblings to stay there and to not come out. I believe he locked them in there actually, but to protect them. So when he finds out, it's, imagine having promised his mother that he would take care of them, etc. He tries to take his own life, but then develops multiple personality disorder, that I'm not really sure if that's the correct term to refer to that by now. But that's the best that I can do. Something like that. And what that means is that he sees his siblings, he talks with them, but it's really him. He's living his entire life, kind of like Fight Club. Um, and that's what the movie's about. Allie, in the end, finds out about that because she reads a diary that the kids left for her, and she decides to stay with him. And the doctor, is checking up on him and his progress, and she's always telling him, no, he's doing well. And she purposefully does not give him the medications that he needs, because with the medications he stops seeing his family, and without them he gets to see them, and it's so 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 sad. So that's basically the entire plot. Obviously, spoilers. Hello, you've already gone this far. I've already ruined it. You shouldn't have. This movie is definitely one of my favorite movies in its genre. I really don't like movies that are like a bunch of guesses. Like every now and again, like The Invisible Man is fine, but it's not my favorite type of movie. When I was watching Marrowbone, I was really invested in the beauty of it. The cinematography takes me to almost a paradise like environment, and a lot of their interactions as young people is something that I can relate to, I can transport myself back to, and it's just beautiful. But at the same time, even like from the very beginning of the movie, at least in my opinion, we get to kind of feel that tension of, well, what's going on? Like I mentioned earlier when I first started this review, when we met Allie, I was like, so what's up? Is Allie kind of like, is she gonna find out something? They always give way to, oh, if Allie finds out, but nobody really says anything clear. Like the way that I explained it is as clear as you're gonna get it. Well, maybe not, but more clear than the movie lets you see as it's going about, because that's the whole point of a thriller, is to surprise you, and it in fact did surprise me a lot. Like I said, it it was a very tough film to process, because I think in this world no one is obligated to go out of their way, right? I'm not saying like, okay, completely devote your life to this one person because they have a disability or they have a condition, whatever. But when you do have that person, whoever they may be, a friend, a lover, a mother, that is willing to be with you the way that Allie decided to be with Jack at the end of the movie. When you have somebody like that, that's that's love, that's power, that is meaningful, because it requires a lot of devotion and sacrifice. You're giving up a lot of your own time to devote to this person. And near the end of the movie, so all the kids have like a little handmade like plush version of themselves, and she finds that they made one for her. And I mean they, because Jack in his head still believes that, that his siblings are alive. And I don't know, it means the world to me to know that there are people like that. Like I said, you're not obligated to do it. You're not a terrible person if you don't, in my opinion. But it's just that when, kind of like, what people call, oh my gosh, real love. Like if you find it, cherish it. When I found out that the dad had murdered the kids, I believe it was a lawyer who went up trying to find the money. And there's a lot that I also left out. Not, well, some important like fight scenes and everything, but in the end they kill him. They kill the dad. He had been surviving eating rats and everything. But anyway, the lawyer goes up and removes like a sheet to discover the rotting corpses of Jack's siblings. And it was so traumatic for me to see them just laying there. It was really uncomfortable. really sad, and that's the reason why they cover the mirrors. This is such a huge topic because it's the topic of not being able to deal with the realities of life. These things happen, and you have to move through the feeling, move through the pain. I could understand to the best of my power, since I've never lived anything like it, but I could see why Jack would not want to continue living after the terrible murders that happened. But his brain did what it could at the time, and gave him, that light that kept him moving. But it's definitely what I didn't even watch it alone. If I would have watched it alone, oh my gosh, the waterworks would have been a mess. But I watched it with my mom, and I've been wanting to watch it with somebody else. I don't know, because my siblings are not into horror, and my friends, the very few that I have, are not into horror either. But this isn't even like, that's the thing. I consider it horror, yes, but it's not so intense. I feel like anybody could really enjoy it, anybody who's open to the genre, because it has a lot of layers to it, and it left me feeling a deep sense of satisfaction, because I found such a beautiful, beautiful film. Very underrated, but most of the best films in the world are. But it also left like a void in me that I want to fill by sharing the pain with other people. So if you watch this film and you felt similar things, please, like, well, thank you for watching, first of all. And like, if you feel comfortable, let me know what your experience was, because it's one of those movies where you like need that mm, figurative hug, that embrace that makes you feel like you're not alone in the world. Like, what I felt like, I was Jack. Like, okay, well, because think about it. Everybody who sees him, this is what I relate to the most. Yeah, they see a young man, whatever, but they know what happened, right? At this point, a lot of people know it's a small town. So they see you as troubled. They see you as broken, as less than, oh, he's crazy, he's this. But do you know how much you have to love someone, in this case, your siblings, to feel like your only resort now is suicide? You know how difficult and how beautiful at the same time it is to be able to still see them and spend time with them, but they never grow old, only you grow old. It's a lot. It's a lot. I just feel so like this isn't even real, but it's so, the emotions are real. Everybody in this movie was fantastic. It's one of the best movies I've ever watched in my entire life. Like I said, definitely my favorites in its category. Um Among my favorites. And I would recommend it to anyone. 10 out of 10, undoubtedly, like no question about it. But let's move on to the Maxine, because this is the double review. So that's it for Marrowbone. Beautiful, beautiful. It has, this tension throughout, haunting scenes, but nothing too extreme. It has romance. It has even a fantasy like feel to it, I would say. Maxine, of course, it all started with X, a movie that I watched quite a long time ago. When it was first released on DVD Blu ray. And then I heard of Pearl very, uh, not too long after I purchased X, but I always had this, yeah, we could say like a prejudice against it, because I felt like Pearl was just gonna be a whole bunch of sex scenes and a whole bunch of gruesome gore, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just not fulfilling. Like, I need emotion. I need, realness. You could be very, very hardcore and explicit and everything, yeah. But first, give me something of substance. If you're just gonna kill to kill, have sex to have sex, like, there's different types of media for that, right? And I don't know, it's just pointless to me. But then I got to watching Pearl, and I reviewed it as well. And it was a fantastic film. It really transported me back to times that I wasn't even alive in. Why don't we talk a little bit about the plot? So the plot is follows Maxine. Maxine is a girl from X. She kills the old lady who's Pearl, and now she's a working adult film star who's trying to make it in the big leagues in, Hollywood films. She is the only survivor of those attacks and is receiving weird threats, and this is set in the 80s. She's being blackmailed, and sooner than later she discovers that, well, everyone around her is dying, so she needs to do something about it. At the very end of the movie, and by the way, she actually gets cast for a sequel of a Hollywood film called The Puritan 2. Before she gets to complete her filming, since she's already being distracted by everything that's going on in her real life, Maxine decides to go to this home of the person who is trying to manipulate her and discovers that this person is in fact her father, who is a cult leader and has brainwashed a bunch of people who had fallen victim to um, people who, I don't know, were into drugs, sex, whatever, all of that stuff, or Hollywood. And it's this mass hysteria that developed, and I'm not too familiar with it, but I could pick up based on some movies that I've watched that there was this whole satanic craze going on in the 80s, and not unlike now with the whole Hollywood issues and kids doing stupid things based on the movies, based on the supposed influence from the movies they watched. So that's what's going on there. And luckily the cops get there in time, and Maxine fights her way through the battle with the cult people and her father, and in the end she shoots him in the face and becomes a star that she's always wanted to be. um that's the plot of the movie. So like I was saying, I had heard about Maxine. I knew that it was going to be different. I didn't have very high hopes, but I had medium to high hopes. And that's kind of what I got, maybe a little bit less, to be honest. It's definitely underwhelming because X for me was a really, really good film, really solid. Something with that reminded me of Lake Placid, obviously because of the crocodile, but it had injections of different types of horror throughout, even though it was a pretty straight up, in my opinion, slasher. But it had a lot of good qualities to it, and it was also sexy, it was campy, it was fun. And Pearl was like a beautiful late timepiece where um, they just went crazy and really delved into what happens in real life when somebody is going through, or when somebody suffers from the same mental condition like Pearl. I related to Pearl like crazy. It's almost scary. But then Maxine is not that. Maxine is kind of, in my opinion, a homage to 80s movies with the whole. Obviously, they had to have the aesthetic, and that's what I really like about it. I like the music that they played. I like that certain scenes took place in a video store, and there were adult stores and like video booths, and all of these things that are actually part of the industry that I work in now. But it just left me feeling a little bit empty. It reminded me a lot of We Summon the Darkness. I believe it's called, with Alexandra Daddario. I really like that movie. But this one, like with Maxine, it was kind of reverse. Maxine was always no, I can't say always, but for the majority of the movie, she was the mouse and there was a bigger cat. And the bigger cat was just not that crazy. I mean, scary. Obviously, he was crazy, but I don't know. I didn't relate to many aspects of the movie, and the movie, while it did transport me back to those times, it still lacked genuine interest. You know, it wasn't um like flavorful enough. It's really hard to explain when something is bland, because that's the whole point. Like, I can't give you why it was bland. It just was. It lacked. That's basically what I can say about this movie, is that the movie really lacked something. For example, um Maxine has flashbacks to when she killed the old lady, and I get that, but it maybe should have been explored a little bit more or a little bit less. But they made it very important, but nothing really happens with it. So that bothered me. So what I mean by that, when she's maybe seeing her at the window of the psycho house, I think. And I read something that the creator was mentioning that he thought about it being Maxine more of a paranormal movie where Pearl attacks, or like, or where she's like an actual ghost, and like that's what the movie's about. And I feel like that would have honestly been better. Um, because if you're gonna see her so much, I want her to have some sort of influence, some sort of like real fear in Maxine that cripples her, that maybe um prevents her from becoming the star that she wants to be, or as big as she could be. And so she does something, you know, to get rid of it, like a exorcism, I don't know, something like that. Or just keep it as kind of like something where she's like, every now and again she'll see a flashback and she's like, oh, sorry, what were you saying, like that. But they made it seem as if it were going to be something more than it wasn't. Eh, as if it were going to be something more than it was. And in the very end, yeah, the whole satanic thing and everything. I mean, I've seen it so much. It's kind of tiring. It also reminded me a lot of what's that movie called? Hereditary. Hereditary is a fine movie, really, really well made. I reviewed it a while ago, even though I think I deleted that review. But you know, the whole, yeah, we're in a cult, we're satanic, we're this, and a lot of that is kind of like fairy tale-ish to me. Every time people start bringing in fancy costumes and this, and we're gonna chant and we're gonna look, to me that's silly. Obviously, if you tie someone up and you have like the costume of it could be a cat, a bear, whatever, it's gonna be crazy because you know you're about to be killed. But in my opinion, they don't have to go all out with the ropes. It just be like, just, I don't know, dressed in all black and say some creepy stuff and go ahead and kill them. But that whole part, like the way that they glamorize satanic rituals and sacrifices in movies, is very unappealing, because those are not witches. If they were witches, then maybe I could do with a little bit more glamour. But you're just regular people that are just kind of weak-minded and very impressionable. So then act like it. You don't need to go like, who's doing these, like, you know, how do you say costurera? These like sewing things. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just very Hollywoodish. So Maxine, for me, I would give it a rating of maybe 6.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's not terrible. It really isn't. But it's a letdown. I say 6.5 is appropriate. And I guess that's it for these two. Thank you for watching.